Today's topic is all about business rule sets. Imagine you wanted a rule set that talked about the proper matching of account codes for fixed assets with their asset codes. Certain accounts having certain kinds of assets. For example, equipment account having E at the beginning of its assets and B being at the beginning of the fixed asset code for all buildings and V for vehicles. So all of those rules are logically put together. They're different rules. If it's equipment account, it needs to have an asset matched to it that starts with E. If it's a building account, it needs to have an asset code that starts with B, and so forth. Now, natural grouping of business rules is what a rule set is. Similar things go together in one rule set. You wanted a rule set that said on ledger entry for this account, this is the rules governing fund, and for another account, this is the rules governing the right fund or function, and for this account, these are the rules covering that fund. So all of those rules are logically connected, so they go into one rule set. With that little introduction, we'll take a peek at one. Now, the beginning for discussion about a rule set is what is the event that kicks it off. So for every rule set, the same event will kick it off. So you want to be careful and best as you can put all the rules that are similar together, and contrary-wise, don't put rules that are different in the same rule set. So here we're getting the different event codes that we've covered in the previous video, and the event code that we've created is this demo that is the event being the creation of a new account. So you could just take a second to think about this. A big one is ledger entry, end of line. There are lots and lots of rule sets under that category, and posting and ledger import, all of those rule sets. But the one that we're using in our class example for the rule we're making up today is to create a new account. And so that is the event that kicks off our rule. Now, it probably would have been better at the very beginning of this for me to remind you, especially if you've sort of lost track over time, what is the rule we're using for our class example. And so let me take a minute to just remind you what the rule is that we're doing for our class example. Over here in chart of account, it's the simplest rule that I could make up. The rule we're making is whenever I create an account in here, like ER Mac, an account that starts with ER, I want to show a message that reminds my user to also go and set up a WHO for that new employee. So a new employee gets a new account. They also need the same number in the WHO account and the WHO analysis codes. And so this is just going to be a message to remind my accountant that every time they create an ER account, they need to also go over and create a WHO. It's the simplest one I could invent. The rule code that we're making up here could be demo, but it would also be nice maybe to give it a name that is a little bit helpful. WHO reminder. Okay, and then it asks if I want to create a new one. Okay, do I wish to create a new one? I say yes. This is a new rule, and this is a WHO reminder and ER account creation. And the rule is going to be open. This is the name of the business rule set. Perhaps this was not the best name because the description should be not defining the business rule, but the set of rules that will be under this category. So you wouldn't name it match asset code starting with E to equipment. You would say the name of the rule set would be something like match asset codes properly to their account code. So that would be more generic and broader that described all the rules that are under it, because this is going to be many rules that are written under this heading. This is the heart of a business rule we're looking at right here, and it's very confusing. But before we are done with all these lessons, you will be a pro. What I thought would be valuable without a lot more discussion is for us to create a rule just so you could see one working under your belt, and then we'll get better and better at it. So this is just a quick flyby, create a rule, show you how it works, and then discuss more and more about rules. Every rule starts with an if. What are the conditions conditions. We're not creating a rule. What we're creating is the line. If, okay, so we're going a logic statement down here. If, and in this case, we want if the account code, this is the function data, and the word function there is referring back, just so you can get a sense of this, the event code was the creation of a new account, and so the function is chart of accounts function. The function is all the data that is in that function, and the function we're working on today is the chart of accounts function, and so we pick that up. If you open all this up and unwrap all of this, it's all the data, all the things connected to creating a new account. Account analysis, currency accounts, ledger analysis entries, these are all fields in the chart of account setup, but the one we want is basic information. You can see account code is what we are interested in here. So for our example, we're not doing any of these others, just account code. And I'm hitting OK again. You can see I'm just continuing going up and down, and the operator is equal. OK. And here we are putting in a value. If the account code starts with ER, then we want it to send this error message. Or it's not really an error message, but advice. Right now, it says if the account code is equal to ER in a precise absolute terms, but we put in this little wildcard here, and we put a bunch of those in, and just as long as it's more. That wildcard is very valuable. If we went star star ER, it would mean if ER was in the third and fourth position, or if we went star 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 ER, if ER were in the fifth and sixth position. And so this would be valuable if you wanted masking and fancy terminology, but if we wanted to, for example, pick out a portion of the account number in the middle, or if we wanted just to have the account number coming in, I think it becomes more valuable if we're starting to actually copy it, and we're going to show you about that later. Copy it, and we want to just pick out, say, the MAC portion or the employee name portion. We could do all kinds of stuff with this masking, but right now we're masking the first two letters of being ER, and then anything else, the if statement will still be true. And so we go OK. And so we finished our first line of our program, and then we've come down here, and now this is a little bit misaligned. Okay, so each of these squares here, okay, so this little square here aligns with this, doesn't align, but it's tagged to this. This one goes to that, this one goes to that, and all the way across. Okay, you would have thought they would have lined it up more tidily, but that's all right. So we are here, rule action 1. I'm going to explain more about this later, but we are going to say yes, and so you can see why. Right now, the logical statement is saying if account code equals ER, starts with ER, yes, it equals it, then you progress down this line right here. If we had a no, we could have a no over in this position, which meant if it doesn't equal ER, you progress down these instructions in this column. So you can have complicated exclusive rules, what to do in this case, down here, what to do if that is not the case. And we're going to build the rules down these columns. And so our column for our class example is going down here, and so we just have one more. And so we want to create, remember the create and insert down here are not rules, they are lines that we're creating and inserting. So we'll create here. If this is true, what do we want it to do? And that is we want it to display. We go OK, we want to display, and it's going to give us the opportunity to grab our business rules, and it actually at the point of me clicking that gave me the opportunity to create the message right now. That's sort of cool. In real life we create the messages on the fly instead of making them beforehand, but our message is already created we want, and so we go no, and now it shows me all the messages, and so I go find our message that we created in a previous video, Mac, right there, and we go OK. This row at this moment is not linked to this column. This instruction, go down here, we're now in this deal here, and we go X. X is what you put by an action in contrast to a logic decision of yes, no, or do this. And so we go OK, and you can see we've got an X here, and we've got our rule. And so for the fun of it and for a sense of completion, we'll go exit out of the rule set, go to chart of accounts. So now we're creating an account called ER Mac 01, and we go OK, and it asks me up here, do I want to create it? And I put yes, and I put Tennyson Mac, and I'm breaking all the rules here, but you get the point. I didn't make it exactly the way we do account names, but it's okay. Lookup code is Mac, just something for me right now to show you this. Currency, we need to always do that when we create an account, and it's US dollar one. And we could of course have a business rule that selected US dollar one if we wanted to. Okay, now watch this. So we go, okay. We've got, don't forget to create the who analysis code for this new employee, so our message worked correctly. Now you may wonder, why did we get 2? Well, it's real simple to explain. Prior to me recording this video, I practiced it and made a business rule to make sure I was getting it right. And so actually we have 2 business rules kicking in, the one I did right before I started recording and the one I just built, both of them given this error message. So you get the idea. Don't forget to create the business rule. So the business rule worked just perfectly. Let's go back to the business rules for just a second. The rule set would be a logical grouping of the rules. So we go to demo, which is all of the rules that we have hooked to that will now appear. You see the one I created getting ready for the recording, and then the one we just did right there. So I've actually created 2 that are doing the same thing. So let's open this and let's talk a little bit about the structure one more time. The logic chain is going down this way, and the primary logic is going down in action, down in action, and down in action. But there is cross logic as well. Suppose we wanted an account code is equal to ER. Let's say we wanted one message to come up if it was equal to ER and one message to come up if it were not equal to ER. So we could put an N right there, and that would evoke the business rule in this column. And so we can build a sense of covering the entire world of all the possibilities as we go across here. Suppose we were saying, is this account code equal to such and such an account, follow this rule, or if the analysis code is 10, follow these rules, and if they're not 10, that means 20, follow these rules. The beauty here is that you can come up with a logically connected set of rules that cover all the alternatives and the area connected to the rule. The main logic is down the column, so you would read down this set of columns here and then go down this set of columns to determine how the rule was working. So I hope this little rule we have just created gives you a nice little starting point and feeling comfortable about thinking about creating your own rules. On the next video, we're going to look at some more specialized concepts in writing rules.